Here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Your mission.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream.
To be given the rights of human beings. To be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities. By any means necessary.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'm your host, Benjamin Dixon. It's Hump Day Wednesday. Wherever you are, you've had a rough week so far. If you haven't, well, congratulations to you. But you've joined us, and that's what I want to thank you for. Thank you for your time. It doesn't matter whether you downloaded this or you're listening on demand or you're listening live. If you're listening live, I really want to thank you. I'm excited about what's going on with the Benjamin Dixon Show. It's really picking up steam, slowly but surely, one listener at a time. We're getting new listeners every day, new people downloading previous episodes, sharing them, people talking about it, new followers on Twitter, new fan page likes. So it's growing slowly but surely. If you find something that you like, that you enjoy, if you think I have something to say, download it and send it to a friend, get people talking. Because, that's really what it's going to take. I'm glad to do what I am doing. And, you can't worry about starting small. That's just life. Sometimes you just have to decide, you know what, I'm going to start. And so that's what I've done. I've done it because there's really a void in progressive talk, particularly from the black perspective. There's very few progressive talkers from the black perspective that are out there. There's very few progressive talkers out there in the first place. And media, particularly talk radio, is heavily dominated by conservative voices. I mean, Rush Limbaugh pretty much has cornered the market. And I guess that's because people like, people like to be yelled at, or not necessarily yelled at, but they want us to yell at somebody. I don't know. That's neither here nor there. That's not my MO. My MO is to talk, speak truth to justice, to talk about the things that I know. I'm not going to malign someone just for the sake of ratings. I'm not going to attack someone just for the sake of ratings. I'm here to give you the perspective, the way I see the world. And I'm here not to try to change your opinion. I'm here to try to help you to think and measure out and figure out exactly where you fit in all of this. Where do you fit in the larger conversation? What do you bring to the table? Because we do have stuff to talk about, and we need your opinion. And whether your opinion is through social media, whether your opinion is right there in your family, wherever it is, we need your voice. So that's one thing that I'm definitely here for, is not just to speak my mind, but I want you to speak your mind. I want to know what you think. I want to know what makes you tick. So share the show, help us spread it. It's growing, it's bubbling. There's a lot going on in the news. Well, actually, let me correct myself. It's kind of a slow news day. Major thing happened yesterday with the veto of the Keystone Pipeline, and we'll talk about that very briefly. But it's a slow news day when all of the news outlets are talking about stuff from entertainment. So in the national news, it's not really much happening new. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of consistent things going on. There's still the struggle with ISIS. There's still issues with the funding the Department of Homeland Security. And those issues are playing out before our eyes, and we're going to see how those things change. But in terms of what's happening differently on the national news, you see everyone's talking about, I can't even pronounce her name, Juliana Rancic. And her comments about the 18-year-old Disney star Zendaya, things like that. And also just in the progressive liberal world, we had a major infight, kind of like a family fight yesterday with some liberal voices coming to conflict with other liberal voices. And that's kind of what happens. One thing about the progressive end of the spectrum is that we don't go off of talking points. We don't echo the same thing because we're so busy arguing amongst ourselves, and that can be good and that can be bad. So we'll deal with a little bit of all of that. But something else happened yesterday. Ron Paul Ron Paul, retired congressman from Texas, he's back in the news, and some comments that he made on air. And we'll play that clip and want to get your opinion. And I'll definitely give you my opinion of what's going on. But the first thing is President Obama vetoes the Keystone Pipeline. Yeah. And we were expecting that. That's nothing groundbreaking. We knew that was going to happen. He had already told them that was going to happen because according to the research from his advisors and according to the research from a lot of people, that the risk for that pipeline outweighed dramatically the benefits. You know, and a lot of people talking about all the jobs that it was going to create. But one of the executives over the company that's trying to get the pipeline through admitted that there's going to create less than 50 permanent jobs. So we're putting our environment at risk. And if you think that's like an overstatement, consider what happens recently. Recently, there was a 4-inch crack in a pipeline that gushed out hundreds, I think even thousands of gallons of oil. Right. We saw what happened in the Gulf. We saw in West Virginia, I believe it was last week or the week before, where a train carrying oil tankers crashed and exploded and created a tremendous environmental hazard. And so for us to exchange the security and the safety of our environment, which is also our security and safety as Americans, it has to be, the reward has to be greater. It can't be 50 jobs. I mean, are we really going to sell? So the president made it clear. You know, we're not going to sell out our environment for 50 jobs. You know, if you're going to create 50,000 permanent jobs or even 5,000 permanent jobs, hell, maybe even 1,000 permanent jobs, possibly, because, you know, we have to weigh the benefits with the costs. But it's only going to create, it would have only created 50. And that's not the part that surprises me. We knew he was going to veto. What's surprising right now is the fact that the Republicans are running wild with this new hashtag, abuse of the pen, right? Abuse of the pen, meaning or asserting that President Obama is abusing his veto power because he's vetoed the Keystone Pipeline. And of course, like with anything else, they're calling for his impeachment. You can see this on Twitter. You can see this in social media. No serious person is really calling this out. But sometimes I like to gauge the average conservative. So I listen to social media and I watch what's happening in the Twitterverse. And they're really serious. They sincerely believe that President Obama has abused his veto power. And I'm laughing because it only took a 3-second Google search to compare President Obama's vetoes with that of previous presidents. 3 seconds. And you will find out that President Obama has vetoed only 3 times. Not 30, not 33, but 3 times. Now, if you want to talk about the abuse of the pen, let's go back to Ronald Reagan. 17 vetoes. George Bush, Herbert Walker, the first Bush, 44 vetoes. I mean, President Clinton, in all fairness, he's up there with them with 37 vetoes. George Bush, W, he has, how many? 12 vetoes. And so if we're looking and we're going to compare apples to apples, which they don't, right? We're trying to have them be reasonable, rational, and equitable. It's like a failed venture before you even start it, because they're not there. And I'm speaking of conservatives. They're not there to have a fair comparison and a logical debate based on rationality and fact. They're not. They're there for just making themselves angry about stuff. Really, I've never seen a group of people who like to just be angry about stuff. You know, whether it's true or not, they don't care if it's true. Give me something to be angry about. And so now they have this hashtag abuse of the pen. They're calling for his impeachment. Nobody's serious. No leaders yet. I'm sure I could find a leader or two, but there's no leaders of any significance that are actually calling for this. But it's the rank and file conservative in the blogosphere, and they're asserting that he's abused the pen when he's only used it 3 times. And that brings me to another reality about the conservative relationship with, and not even relationship, the conservative obsession. I mean, they are obsessed with Barack Obama. They are. It's like President Obama can say the sky is blue and they will start a rally. They will start an entire movement of the green skiers. You know, they will start an entire movement to say that the sky is not really blue because President Obama said the sky is blue. Right. And it's another thing that it's one of those things that if somebody else does it, it's OK. But because Barack Obama had the nerve to do it, it's criminal and it's grounds for impeachment. You know, it's like with the vacation thing. They always want to post pictures of President Obama golfing or going on vacation. You know, the nerve, the nerve of the leader of the free world to take, I believe, what's around 125, maybe 140 days out of the last 6 years for vacation. And when you compare it with the time of Ronald Reagan and George I and George II, you know, they're up in the 300 days, 400 days, some absurd amount. They're taking, you know, an entire year's worth of vacation. But when President Obama takes, you know, 1/3 of that amount of time, 1/4 of that amount of time, it's now, oh, he's just a lazy president and he goes golfing too much and he plays basketball. I mean, come on. God, really? Is that what you want to go with? But it speaks to the fact that they don't care. They do not care about facts. They don't care whatsoever. As long as it gets their blood boiling, as long as they can get angry about it, they want to hear it. They absolutely do not care about whether it's true or not. And you know, personally, I think you have to shut off a certain portion of your brain to fall in line with the conservative ideology. I do. You have to shut off that portion of rationale, that portion of logic, that portion of not even advanced thinking, but common sense to say, you know, to fall in line with the Republican talking points. You know, you really have to shut off your common sense to say that President Obama is taking too many vacation days when your leaders took 3 times as much as he has. You really have to shut it off. And that's the world that I said it last week and I'll say it again. They're conservatives. You guys are living in. I love you as humans. I love you as people. I love you because like I love all humanity. Right. But you guys are living in this alternate parallel universe where nothing is factual and everything is upside down, where the sky is green and the grass is blue. That's the kind of world you're living in. And even with the whole ISIS situation. Right. ISIS, and they're so upset because President Obama is not declaring a holy war. There's a picture going around the internet with a meme with some quotes from the president. You know, the president of the United States has said, Islam is a vibrant faith. I want you to listen closely. Islam is a vibrant faith. Millions of our fellow citizens are Muslim. We respect the faith. The president of the United States said, ours is not a war against a religion, not against the Muslim faith, but ours is a war against individuals. The president of the United States said Islam is a faith that has made brothers and sisters of every race. It is a faith based upon love, not hate. And instantly, all of a sudden, they want to say President Obama is a Muslim apologist and a sympathizer, and he's not a real American because he's identifying and he's taking up for Muslims. Guess what? Those aren't President Obama's words. Those words were President George W. Bush's. Those were his words. And so we live in this world where conservatives look at President Obama doing the exact same thing, even less so. 3 vetoes in 6 years compared to 17 for Bush and 44 for Bush 1. 3 vetoes. And now they want to declare it's an abuse of the pen. Well, anybody out there saying that is not really serious. So, you know, I'm not going to harp on that. But this idea that he's an Islamic terrorist apologist, you know, those words that I read to you, those came from George W. Bush, not President Obama. So it's OK when George W. Bush says it, but it's completely absurd when President Obama says it. Man, I'm almost up against a hard break. I didn't realize that much time had gone by. Listen, you've tuned into the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll be back right after this break.
You're tuned into the Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation. 857-600-0518.
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. The Elite Team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Hey, no, no, hey, no, no.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to segment 2. I didn't realize time was flying this quickly. I might have to move into 2 hours in the future. Or, talk radio runs like 3 hours on. I don't know if I can talk to you that long. I have other stuff to do. 3 hours is a bit much, but time is running. So let me not waste any more time. So I'll give my same caveat that I always give. I don't like having to talk about race so much. I don't. It gets tiring. It gets tiring, but it's like everywhere I turn, people are, it just,
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Release the Kraken.
I try my best, but they pull me back in. It never fails. I want you to listen to this clip by Ron Paul. Just yesterday, Ron Paul was a former congressman he was congressman for at least 25, 30 years from Texas, a libertarian Republican. Listen to what he had to say.
Some geopolitical and social changes that occurred there that made that come about. But they won't give up. They have to feel good about it. I was always annoyed with it in Congress because we had an anti-war unofficial group, the few libertarian Republicans, and then generally the Black Caucus and others did not. They're really against war because they want all that money to go to food stamps for people here.
Not to be overly dramatic, but he just categorically said that the Black Caucus made up of black congressional leaders, Democratic and Republican, but he dismissed the entire Black Caucus and said that they only oppose war because they want food stamps for, he didn't even say who for, he just wants food stamps with the money. That's what they want to do with the money. Can we just, I think what's more aggravating about this, yesterday I was debating this with some friends, and I use that word loosely, some people I know. I was debating this with some people that I know, and some of them just could not believe that I thought that comment was racist. They felt like I was being deceptive and I was taking it out of context. But his words speak for themselves. Matter of fact, I'll play it again.
Geopolitical and social changes that occurred there that made that come about. But they won't give up. They have to feel good about it. I was always annoyed with it in Congress because we had an anti-war unofficial group, the few libertarian Republicans, and then generally the Black Caucus and others did not. They're really against war because they want all that money to go to food stamps for people here.
His words. There's nothing to spin about it. There's nothing to debate about it. Here's the problem, and it's a problem on so many levels. One, he's perpetuating and he's forwarding this false narrative about this false narrative that's wrapped in the worst stereotypes, the lies that they've been telling about black people since forever. That you heard Ronald Reagan say it, that talking about the welfare queens and the young bucks who are going driving Cadillacs to get steaks with food stamps. You know, perpetuating this imagery. And see, Ronald Reagan was smart enough to use words that could not be categorically pinned down to the black community. You know, everybody, when he said welfare queens, they thought about black people. When he said young bucks, you know, that was a throwback to slavery, and they thought about black people. But he never explicitly said black people. That was the great communicator, the great propagandist, Ronald Reagan. Now, Ron Paul isn't even smart enough to hide it because they genuinely believe this crap. They generally believe this bull that black people are only involved. You mean all of these accomplished? I'm not a fan of all of them, but right now I'm going to praise all of them. They're all accomplished. They're elected officials. They all ran races. They ran statewide races. They ran congressional district races, and they won. All of them probably have higher education degrees and graduate degrees. All of them are probably published and have done things. And you want to categorically say that this group of people who are accomplished can only oppose war because they want food stamps? What in the entire hell is wrong with your brain? And for people to look at that and not see the blatant, the absurd racism is even more aggravating. And that's what we're dealing with here. It's one thing to have an old wacko, somebody's old granddaddy throwback from the 60s and 50s, Ron Paul, have this mentality of racism. That's one thing. There's a lot of that left. It's another thing for all of these quote unquote so-called enlightened libertarians and even some liberals who are, and definitely a lot of conservatives who can look at a statement like that and say that there was nothing racist about it. One, it forwards a false narrative because the disproportionately so white people consume SNAP benefits, welfare, more food stamps, more than any other demographic in the United States. So that's one, you're lying. It's a false narrative. Two, it's a stereotype that has been imbued upon black people since forever. Definitely since the 60s, definitely since the Richard Nixon started the Southern Strategy, and absolutely since the 80s, since Ronald Reagan started pimping the evangelical Christians, making them feel good about themselves because he talked bad about African Americans. If you need me to unpack that statement, see me offline and I will unpack and give you evidence to everything that I just said. So it's one thing, but now it's forwarding a false narrative and it's wrapped in the worst stereotype. And it comes off his mouth so easily as if like this is just a matter of fact. It's just a matter of fact that black people want food stamps. And he thinks nothing of it. And the host of the show thinks nothing of it. And that speaks. And the fact that there's so many people so far in social media world where I spend too much time, admittedly, so many people don't see anything wrong with it. That speaks to the level of institutionalized racism because they can't even see. They're completely blind to the offensive nature of statements like that. One of my friends, this guy I will call a friend, Kevin, he tried to help me to roll it back a little bit. And he said, well, Ron Paul wasn't trying to be malicious. Yeah, okay. I can, he was just talking. He wasn't trying to be malicious towards black, but he was. Even though he wasn't trying to be, it was still offensive. It doesn't give him a pass in terms of what he said. Maybe I shouldn't be so angry about it. But then again, I have the right to be angry about whatever I need to be angry about. I mean, if I were to make a statement offensive and derogatory towards the LGBT community, do they, and I didn't mean to, do they not still have the right to be upset and call me on it? And so whether it was malicious or not, it still speaks to the structural racism in America. And I get tired of having to talk about it, but there's another example that I have to play. Listen in.
All right. I don't know. I love Zendaya's style, and I love when she has the little hair. She just had it. I think she's such a tiny frame that this hair to me overwhelms her. Like I feel like she smells like patchouli oil. Or weed.
Yeah, maybe weed. It's legal in so many states. Why not?
It's so legal now.
It's so legal.
So that's
okay. So let me break that clip down, and I should have gave you a preface before it, but I gave it to you in the introduction. Here is a conversation on a show called The Fashion Police. Never watched it, probably never will. This is a clip off of YouTube of that episode. So they're talking about the 18-year-old Disney star Zendaya. I think Zendaya is how you pronounce it. She goes to the Oscars and she's dressed in this fabulous dress. The dress was fabulous. I'm not a fashionista or anything of that night, but it was a hot dress. And she had faux locks. They weren't real, they weren't hers, but they were beautiful locks. And so the Fashion Police get on the show. This one, Juliana Rancic. And she just so easily, so carelessly refers to the fact that she has dreads, and she goes straight to stereotypes of patchouli oil and weed. That she looks like, here's an 18-year-old girl being addressed by a 40-year-old woman, saying that the 18-year-old girl, because she's wearing locks, looks like she smells like patchouli oil and weed. You can't make this up. Now, she came back and apologized, and she gave a heartfelt, she understood. She didn't understand as she was saying it, and she was educated about it, and she apologized from the depths of her heart. And so, should we forgive her? Clearly, we can move on from it, but it speaks directly to the same effortless racism, even if it's not malicious, even if it's not malevolent, and all you're doing is just speak your mind, but it speaks to the nature of what's going on in your mind for you to be able to just let stuff bull like that roll off your tongue. And with Juliana, she dug herself in a deeper hole because of the people around her clapping and laughing. So it's not just her. Everybody jumped on her. What about the audience that thought it was so funny? And after they laughed, she upped it. She one-upped herself. And then she said weed. It's not just her. It's the system that allows that. And the fact that that's a starting condition for so many people, that it's just rolls so seamlessly off their lips. And then it came out later. And I haven't found, I like to find things, concrete evidence for myself. I like to see it for myself. I haven't seen it, but there were comments on the video talking about how Juliana Rancic was praising another actress, a white actress who was wearing dreads, fake dreads, and were praising those dreads. But now when Zendaya wears it, it's she looks like she smells like weed. That's the structural racism that black folks and people of color in general have to face on an everyday basis. It doesn't have to be malicious, mind you. It doesn't have to be someone who wants to oppress black people and wants the supremacy of white people to rise, and they want the purity of it. It doesn't have to be all the neo-Nazi Aryan nation type level of racism to be racist. Your intentions can be bland, for lack of a better word right now. You could just be talking off the side of your neck, like Juliana Rancic. But it doesn't change the fact that your starting condition in your mind is that for Ron Paul, black congressional elected accomplished leaders only want to oppose war in exchange for food stamps. That mindset, that starting condition, that is beyond problematic. And that is beyond a perfect example of what institutionalized racism really is in America. I'm going to take a little earlier break here because I want to come back. And when we come back, we're going to deal with I'm going to segue from this institutionalized racism. And I want to talk about some of the infighting that's been going on in liberal circles, progressive circles. So we'll be back. You can join the conversation, 857-600-0518. It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Hey, if you're like me, you're probably hearing the news that the economy is getting better, right? But there's one problem. You still don't have a job. Get back into the game with Chance.com, the state-of-the-art online employment connection for the new generation. Get access to millions of jobs on Chance that are actually hiring now. Stop searching for outdated job postings. Log on to Chance.com. Create a profile and then be found. Make the connection you need to get hired today. If you're serious about your career, you've got to check this out. Chance.com. Get that job. Make that chance with Chance.com. JANZZ.com.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. They're more efficient than the old bulbs, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon. And they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
You feel petrified. You're struggling with your mortgage payments, not knowing what to do. You do nothing. But if you do something, you're far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call 888-995-HOPE to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about your options. Call 888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
It's 6:42 p.m. Time for Steve Plotto and his son Dylan to do the dishes. They talk about everything from the yuckiness of girls to the awesomeness of his soccer team. Sometimes they don't talk at all. Then, hey! The dreaded splash fight. It's Dad O'Clock, and it's the best time of the day. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Buckle up for the ride. Give us a call, 857-600-0518.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Thank you for joining us. We're moving at a little faster pace than normal. This is going to be segment 3. This is normally segment 3, but we're going to have another segment after this. But anyway, that's just internal notes. I'm thinking out loud. So yesterday it was kind of a brutal day. Let me start here. Social media is a powerful thing. Social media will amplify your voice. Social media, Twitter and Facebook, they will introduce you to an audience of people who you could otherwise not have met. So it's a powerful thing. But, it is a brutal place for the uninitiated. I mean, you can step on some landmines in social media that will make you want to run into your house, crawl up in your bed, cover your head, and not come out for at least a month. And yesterday was one of those days for Nicole Sandler and from RadioOrNot.com. I mentioned her name. A lot of you listening may not know her. I only know Nicole Sandler because she filled in on a regular basis for my favorite progressive talk radio host. I mean, there's a couple out there, I do like them, but my favorite is no longer on the air. Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads was like, I could listen to her all day because she was a comedian, which I'm not. I don't have comedy. All I could do is laugh. Right. I could do jokes, but my jokes are really like in the moment, and my jokes generally require profanity. So, at the risk of exposing some of my proclivities too much, I stay away from comedy. Right. But Randy was a comedian par excellence, and she was a great progressive voice. And whenever Randy wasn't around, Nicole Sandler would fill in for her. And I'm not really a big fan of Nicole, but I respect her work and I respect her effort. And I respect the fact that she's out there grinding. She's not making this fabulous living doing talk radio. But she's out there hustling every single day, trying to promote progressive causes, trying to stand in the gap for a lot of the marginalized groups in the community, in the community being the United States community, right? And so yesterday, this is why I'm bringing it up, because it really shines a light into the nature of progressive politics, not just on a micro level, like with what happened yesterday with Nicole Sandler and the Twitterverse, but it also speaks to progressive politics in general, even the Democratic Party. When I used to go, because I don't go now, I don't go to Democratic meetings now. I will just, watch from the outside, tell me about it. But in progressive ideology, in the progressive caucus, the group, us folks who are progressive, we don't get along. We, quite frankly, a lot of times we fight each other more, and we fight each other better than we fight against conservatism. And I don't think that's a badge of honor. I think that's actually problematic at times. But the reasons we fight amongst ourselves is because we all have grievances. We all have causes that are near and dear to our hearts. I mean, it takes a lot for you to get up and go out and protest about something. It takes a lot for you to put yourself out for the public consumption so that your voice can be heard. It takes a lot. So you have to understand, we're passionate about what we believe in. And a lot of times what we believe in and the grievances that we have, they clash at the intersection of other people's grievances and other people's issues. And so yesterday, over the past 2 days, it was just kind of the one of the most public infighting experiences that I've seen with people generally that I agree with on both sides. I agree with both of them. And so long story short, let me stop with all the preface. Long story short, Nicole Sandler left Twitter because she was getting attacked. And I use the word attacked because that's just what Twitter is. I mean, she was wrong. Let's start there. Nicole Sandler was wrong on a couple of things I disagreed with her on. And when you're wrong and you're publicly wrong and you're wrong while in a conversation, conversing with people with 60,000 and 100,000 followers, yeah, you're going to catch it. And so that's what she did. So what was she wrong about? She was wrong about the problem that people had with this acceptance speech. I shouldn't even went down on this road because I can't remember the lady's name. Patricia Arquette, I believe. If I'm wrong, just correct me. Patricia Arquette's acceptance speech, which was fine. It was comments after the Oscars, which said that women of color and LGBT women need to join up with women and fight for equal pay because the Equal Pay Amendment hasn't been ratified. Right? A lot of minutia. But the point is this: women of color And LGBT women, they're all women. And so to isolate them and say that they need to drop their other causes, that was something that offended a lot of people, because it's not just a woman thing that they have to fight against. It's the fact that here it is. Let me help you like this. Feminism is one thing, and I'm no feminism expert. I'm just repeating what I've learned. All right. So if I say something wrong, don't charge me, charge the people that I'm learning from, because I'm not a feminist naturally. I'm learning about feminism, and I'm learning about myself and my misogyny and things that I'm guilty of. Right. So if I say something wrong, charge it to my lack of education. But I will speak on it because of how it happened yesterday. You have feminism and you have white feminism, women who are feminists, who are white. But then you have women who are feminists who are also black. And so, yes, they have things in common. They have women issues in common, but you compound it when you are a black woman, because now you have two fronts that you have to fight on, and you have to fight against this system on. You have to fight against the fact that you're discriminated and you're marginalized because you're a woman, but you're also marginalized because you're a woman of color. And so that's an entirely different battle that other people don't have to identify with. And then if you want to one up it more, you look at the LGBT community. So now not only are you fighting on the fact that you're a woman, you're also fighting on the fact that you're a woman of color. And now you're fighting along the lines of your LGBT. So you got all kind of battlefronts that you're fighting on. And so Nicole couldn't recognize that. She couldn't process that. She couldn't understand that she benefits from the privilege of not being a woman of color, that she benefits from being white. And there's nothing wrong with that, in the sense of you're not guilty just because you're white, no more than I'm guilty just because I'm a man. I'm marginalized at times because of my color. It's the frequency of it is what drives me crazy, because it's a lot more frequent than you would believe in the 21st century. But because of my skin color, I have to fight to not be marginalized. But I have something going in my favor. I'm a man. And there's privilege that I have as a man that I don't even have to think about. It doesn't even process. I don't have to think about people catcalling me. I wouldn't totally be opposed to that. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with the fact that I'm going to get paid what is due me, versus a woman who's going to get paid 75 cents on the dollar for what I make. That's male privilege. And every one of us benefits from some type of privilege, no matter how marginalized we are at other times. And so what yesterday really showed me was that you have this group of people who are so disenfranchised in their different ways, so marginalized in their different ways, and everyone has a different type of grievance. And because we all have different types of grievances, sometimes we want other people to make our grievance their priority. For instance, sometimes I want you to pick up and go out and protest with us, Black Lives Matter. But that may not be the most important issue to you. And I think where we're coming in liberal politics and progressive politics, we're coming at this intersection, no pun intended. We're coming to an intersection where we're having to understand the complexities of what it is to be an ally. Think about it this way. If you've ever tried to explain to someone, let's start with women. Women, if you ever tried to explain to someone the plight of being a woman in the United States, how did it feel to you when they completely dismissed you as if, what you're experiencing, let me tell you what you're experiencing. You come to me. Let's say you come to me and tell me about catcalling. And I just completely dismiss you and say, you're exaggerating. Here I am supposed to be an ally because we have a common enemy. And yes, it is an enemy. It is. And I don't use these words lightly. I don't. But this is what it is. It's white, cisgendered, Christian male, heterosexual supremacy. That's what it is. It is this caricature. It is this thing that we hold up and say that if anybody does not fall into these categories, then they are not in the norm. If you're not a Christian, you're at a disadvantage if you're Muslim, or even if you're atheist. You don't have the same privilege that you do. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, Christians are persecuted. listen, I've been in the Christian business for a long time, the ministry business for a long time. And let me tell you something. When you have television stations, when you have billion-dollar industries, when you have organizations on every corner, and when no one can tell you differently, you're not being oppressed. People who are oppressed are people who are maligned because of their faith. And so you have people who are marginalized in each of those categories. Gay people are marginalized in their own way. But gay people, let's take a gay white male. And this might be too complicated for this time frame that I have left. And if I don't finish it, we'll pick it up another time. Or you can follow me on social media and we can unpack it more. But let's take a gay white male. He has grievances because the system they do not want to recognize their rights to be married in the sense of the government, right? The government rights, the rights that are granted by the secular government that are attached to marriage. And gay people say they want those rights. And as American citizens, they are entitled to those rights. But what happens when they get those rights and they're no longer marginalized because of that? Well, then they fall out of the marginalized category to a certain degree. And so all of this to say is that we all have issues that are near and dear to us, and we're trying to work out the dynamics of what it is to be allies with each other. And we are clashing with each other because what we believe or what is important to us may not be as important to someone else. And so yesterday we just saw one of, I think she's significant. I think she's important in liberal thought and liberal progressive radio. And I think Nicole is important because she's persistent and she's dogmatic and she doesn't quit. But we lost her voice on Twitter. I hope she comes back. But we lost her voice because she could not understand that what she experiences as a white woman who is marginalized because of her sex is uniquely different than what a woman of color experiences, being marginalized for her sex as well as her race, which is completely different than what I experience as a black man, completely different than what an LGBT woman experiences. Being a LGBT woman of color, it's just like compounding. So we lost a voice. I doubt we lost her radio show because she's too tenacious for that. But I hope that she comes back to Twitter and keeps, speaking her mind. It's a complicated thing. It's a complicated thing trying to have all of these different ideologies and all of these different issues underneath one camp. But it sure is better than having a totalitarian spin on your ideology. I would rather fight it out with progressives about our differences, about what's important to us and what's not important to you, and whose issue should win the day and whose issue should take precedent. I would rather argue about that than I have to turn over my brain and to become a conservative drone who all think exactly alike. Do you notice the difference? Here we are, progressives, we're fighting it out because we have so many unique differences, versus the conservatism. They're not fighting with each other. They're marching in lockstep. Now, I appreciate the fight. I appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that we are individuals and we're trying to work things out. But it's problematic. It is problematic when we're so busy fighting each other while they're progressing their agenda. And they sit back and laugh at us because we can't get ourselves together because we're arguing all the time. And here they are, white cisgender, male, conservative Christian supremacy winning out the day. Yesterday, we're fighting with each other, right? But at the same time, George Zimmerman gets no federal charges against him. We're fighting against each other. And here is Ron Paul, whose son, it's important because his son is a potential presidential candidate. And here's Ron Paul, apples don't fall far from the tree, speaking right from his heart with the vitriolic, well, not vitriol, let me not load it up, but it was pure racist, right? And here we are fighting with each other, and we have the Koch brothers who are going to raise $1 billion this year. And I know we need to fight. I know we need to work out our differences and to work out the complexities of being an ally. But I'm telling you something, we don't have to be friends. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to think the same way. We are all going to think different, but we have a common cause. And if we can't get together and fight for that common cause, and instead we need to fight. Long story short, we have to fight against conservatism better and more than we fight against each other. And if we're fighting against each other just for the sake of proving a point and we're losing progressive voices, you know, that's to the detriment of progressiveness. That's to our own detriment, you know. And so it was a brutal day yesterday. You can just go to Twitter and search for Nicole Sandler, and you can see see how deep and how far and how wide that thing went. And part of it was necessary. I'm going to just be honest with you, perfectly candid. It was necessary because she did not understand, and unfortunately, her education came very publicly. Thankfully, my education on things, and I still have things to learn, obviously, but my education on women issues, a lot of them came privately in private discussions with people not knowing. A lot of my education on LGBT rights. One of the reasons that I will fight and stand up for the LGBT community is because of personal relationships, sitting down and talking with people, you know, and I know I part ways with a lot of Christians on that, but you know what? If you actually sat down and talked with people and listened and learned, you would realize the role that you play with your privilege. Every one of us has privilege. Every one of us has, at some time, in some way, we're marginalized, and in some time, in some way, we're privileged. And so we have to be careful that in our role as a privileged American, that we are not being dismissive or even being the oppressor to someone else who's marginalized. But the worst thing that we can do as allies is dismiss each other because of our differences. All right, I'm not going to take a break because we're almost out of time. I want to shift gears. I'm going to do a hard shift right here. I want to talk about that show Empire that's coming on tonight. And I'm talking about it because it came into my world. I don't watch much TV. The only thing I watch is Doctor Who, the news, and The Walking Dead. And so it came into my world. It came into politics, and I want to play a clip of both of the founders, the creators. Here's the first creator.
You guys got over 13 million viewers last Wednesday, and for the first time since Nielsen has started tracking total audience, you're the first show ever to gain in your first 6 episodes. That's crazy. That's called word of mouth. That's big.
Danny Strong, the show's creator and executive producer.
So you got to tell everybody how you prepared for this.
Yeah.
How did I prepare for this?
We asked if you went around, how did you research, did you go out and hang out in clubs, what did you do? You said actually you just stayed at home and looked at a certain star on YouTube.
Well, right before I started to write the first draft of the pilot, I had this moment of crisis of, oh wait, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is completely insane.
That happens here at
How did I end up
5:59
here at this moment where I'm going to write this hip-hop saga? So I just started watching Kanye West interviews, and I watched about 45 minutes of Kanye West interviews, and then at the end of those 45 minutes, I thought, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to go do this. Yeah.
That's all you need.
And then I went and I wrote the first draft of the pilot.
The bigger question.
Okay, so here he is, one of the creators of Empire, and has no knowledge of the hip-hop community. No knowledge whatsoever of the hip-hop community. And after watching 45 minutes of Kanye West interviews, he decided he was prepared to write a drama based on African Americans in the hip hop community. I bring that up because it should shed some light on you, to you, for you, with regard to the nature of these shows, man. I'm telling you, these TV, the visions, the television, the images that they portray are so important. And here we have this caricature of a show. It's just my opinion. You tune into me, so you can like it. You can love it. Doesn't make me none. But for me, when I see characters named Lucius and Cookie, and they embody so many different stereotypes about African Americans, to me, it becomes a disgusting minstrel show that I just can't sign on to. Just like any of those Real Housewives of anything. You know, don't you get tired of negative imagery going out more than positive imagery. I'm not saying that people have to absolutely adopt positive images of every culture and that we should ban negative images. No, I'm not talking about censorship. But what I'm saying is the level to which we are being fed this coonery buffoonery. It really is. It's ridiculous. And now to see that this is it's co-created by Lee Daniels, right, who is a African-American man who wrote and directed, rather, Precious and The Butler. All right, some award-winning movies. So fine, it has an African-American spin to it. But the creator, the thinking power behind it came from a white guy who took 45 minutes of Kanye West and decided that he was now qualified to write. And maybe you think it was, I guess maybe people really think it worked, right? Because 13 million people are tuning in tonight to watch Empire. And it reminds me of the sorority sister issue, when the images and the portrayal of black sorority women were so repugnant that those women did not, and rightfully so, they did not stop until sponsors were pulled from that show. But here's my thing. If we allow shows like Real Housewives and all of these other shows, Empire, and just all of these negative images and stereotypes that are being forwarded and perpetrated upon us, if we allow those, then it's going to always come back in our backyard and hit us too close to home. Like all of these ridiculous church reality shows. I mean, if you supported any of the Real Housewives, then it only made sense that they were going to come to the church, that they were going to come to the sororities. And next thing you know, they're going to have a fraternity show, and they're just exposing and forwarding all of these the worst stereotypes that you can imagine. I want to play one last clip, and I'm going to get out of here because I got stuff to do today, and so do you. But I'm going to play one more clip by the co-creator, and I want you to listen to what he said with regard to black women.
When I was doing the research for Precious, I walked into the AIDS, what's it called? The Gay Men's Health Crisis Center in New York City, expecting to see, studying AIDS, HIV, and I expected to see a room full of gay men. Well, there are nothing but women that are there. And the reason why women are there, black women with kids. I thought I had walked into the welfare office, but they service black women with AIDS. Why?
He thought he walked into a welfare office, and he says it so carelessly and so matter of fact. He says it so seamlessly. It reminded me exactly of what Ron Paul did. It reminded me exactly of what Juliana Rancic did yesterday. It's exactly the same. When you can let a stereotype, a racist stereotype, and yes, he's black, but the stereotype that came out of his mouth at that moment, he was doing the work of racism. He was racist. It was a racist stereotype of black women. He allowed that to come out of his mouth about he thought he had walked into a welfare clinic because he saw black women and children. What kind of bull? What is going on in his brain that could just be a throwaway statement, almost as a matter of fact? Now, you heard your two creators. These are the guys behind your show. You might be a fan of it, but I thought it was important for you to know what's behind the show. One guy who carelessly dismisses black women as being thinking he had walked into a welfare clinic, and then another guy who has no knowledge of the hip hop community whatsoever, other than a 45-minute interview or study of Kanye West. That's Empire, and you wonder why anybody with some, who I don't want to say with sense, because I don't want to insult 13 million people, but anybody who is turned off by the show, we see it. We see it in the previews. We see it. We see the agenda that they're forwarding. We see the images that they're forwarding. And it comes a time where you better stand up and speak out about something. Everything can't go. There is a problem with the way media portrays black people. But if you're the number one supporter of these kind of shows, then you're also part of the problem. I know I'm old and I'm about to show my age, but God, can we get Different World back on the air? Can we? I don't care if it's reruns. Can we get another type of Cosby show on something? I know y'all don't like Cosby right now, so maybe not Cosby, but Different World. I mean, can we get some positive images done by people who have the best interest for our community? That's what we need. Listen, you've tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I want to thank you for your time. I'm out of time, and I want to leave you with a little bit of James Baldwin, Barack Obama, Maya Angelou, and Robert Kennedy.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.